using the name Jesus, where people just say you shouldn't use the name Jesus because Jesus means Hail Zeus. It means praising a false god, and they act like they are so intelligible, so very, very smart. And what boggles my mind is the fact that people that call themselves Christians is using these anti-Christian arguments against using the name Jesus. Why are people that is calling themselves Christians, calling themselves worshippers of the living God, using arguments of New Ages and enemies of the cross that are all anti-Christ? But to clear up the confusion today, we have Anton Wesbisky interviewing Wes Huff on this very topic. Let's give it a listen, and hopefully Wes Huff can clear up some confusion for you. By the grace of God, let's get into it.
Calling out, Jesus is Hail Zeus. That's what they're saying in ancient tongue.
I don't think Billy brought this up in the stream, but can you just for the record debunk the thing about Jesus' name? Because Billy alludes to that a lot, and I know it was something you wanted to get to in the debate, but a lot of New Agers and Gnostics, they get caught up on the Yeshua, the J wasn't created, that's not his real name. When you're calling on Jesus, you're calling on Zeus, like just a bunch of nonsense for people who don't understand basic things. But do you speak Hebrew? I read Hebrew, so I can't speak modern Hebrew, but I can read ancient Hebrew. Okay, so you'll understand this. I'd love just for people to hear. Yeah. Let me just say. Okay, so Jesus is the anglicized version of the Greek word Jesus. So the New Testament authors transliterate and translate the name Jesus, which is the Greek version of, it's the Hellenized version of the Hebrew Yeshua. And Yeshua itself is a compound of two Hebrew words that means Yahweh saves. So the thing is, in first century Roman occupied Judea, we know for a fact that Jews would have gone by a number of names, right? We have this in the sense that you could have been called Jacob, which would have been Jacob. In Greek, you would have gone by Jakobos. And so you would have had like an Aramaic, a Hebrew, and a Greek version of your name that you probably would have answered to, because this is a multilingual society. And the Jews in Jesus' day, they would have been speaking Aramaic as their primary language. They would have been speaking a little bit of Hebrew, although that would have largely been relegated to religious context. And they almost certainly would have known some Greek, because at this time, the Roman soldiers that are running around are still speaking Greek, so you need to know what they're saying, right? So otherwise you're in trouble. So the modern English simply adopts the J for the Latin I in the 16th and 17th century. So by the time we get to, say, the early modern English Bibles, like the King James, that Billy likes to talk about a lot, the Latin Iesu, in its nominative and vocative forms grammatically, from the Greek Iesus, just incorporates the J, and Iesus turns into Jesus. But that's all it is. It's just an anglicized Germanic, because English is a Germanic language, version of the Latin, which is in itself a translation of the Greek. Now, the New Testament authors had no problem translating Jesus' name into Greek. And so if there's something magical, something special, something we're missing if we're not calling Jesus, so in Hebrew it would have been Yehoshua, in Aramaic it would have been Yeshua, or even Yeshu as a short form. The New Testament authors don't seem to think preserving that specialness of that name is fundamentally essential, because Jesus knows who you're talking about when you call on his name, right? And so it's just, I think it's making too much of too little to start harping on, they changed the name of Jesus. You go all around the world and there's going to be translations of Jesus' name. Even Peter's name, right? Pedro, Petros, Pablo, like these are all versions of Peter. And so it just makes sense. Let me also say, when Billy says in some of his videos that Jesus means Hail Zeus, it doesn't. Zeus in Greek has an unnatural declension, but in its genitive and dative and accusative forms, which are the natural ones that you would read, it's Dios. So hail in Greek is Hyro. So it would have been Hyro Deus. Does that sound like Jesus? Jesus? No, it doesn't. But once again, in Latin, it's Jupiter, right? Jupiter. So it's more examples of Billy, unfortunately, just either not doing his homework, fabricating things wholesale, but at the end of the day, communicating falsehoods about who Jesus is and what that means for people who follow Jesus.
Yeah. So everybody listening, you can have peace. Like, man, Wesley, like for real, people are actually scared to say Jesus' name because of things like this. I mean, this is a very real popular topic amongst New Agers.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can have peace knowing that when you pray to Jesus, you're not praying to Zeus. You're not, doing any of that.
Like I always say, if you want to remain ignorant, remain deceived, just never question these false claims. Never go to people that has actually studied these languages and that have expertise in the field of ancient languages, because when you do that, you will destroy the deception that you are under. Knowledge is the enemy of deception, and Satan confuses. It is through confusion that Satan deceives. But even as the Lord raised up a lot of Christian brothers and sisters that proclaim the truth of His word and defend the faith, people continue to spread lies and misinformation. And the claim that Jesus is just simply means Hail Zeus is spread by people who don't know what they are talking about. They are just lying. Even the facts doesn't stop them from just saying, no, you are wrong. It doesn't stop them from continuing in their deception and in their lies. But for the Christian brothers, it's necessary for you to understand things pertaining to the faith in its context and in its truth. For Satan will definitely try to limit you and hinder you through his confusions and deceptions that he is promoting through people that claim to be knowledgeable and experts in their fields. So hopefully you can now have peace using the name of Jesus in prayer, to pray, and even to cast out demons if the Lord if you face a situation where a demon needs to be cast out. Because even demons, they recognize and they bow to the name of Jesus Christ. Thank you for listening. From my side, as always, Shalom.